Max Verstappen told the media that he's only in this championship battle because of other people's failures. Lando Norris said he doesn't know what he's speaking about. On Sunday, McLaren proved Max Verstappen knew exactly what he was speaking about. Let me propose to you a trade. We give Max Verstappen P1, while us at McLaren, we get flexibility.
And when McLaren came on the radio and said this is the right decision because everyone else, and especially Verstappen, loses out on flexibility. Well, how fucking stupid do you look now?
McLaren, I've never seen a team butcher having the most dominant car and butcher having two drivers in a title battle this badly. It is embarrassing.
From 104 points to 12 points in inferior machine. Max Verstappen, oh my God, are we thankful again for you. Everyone else pitted but McLaren. The only slight to that was Antonelli going wide and allowing Lando Norris to get that extra 2 points, which essentially means that if Lando Norris finishes on the podium, he will win the championship. And if he didn't get those extra 2 points, he could have still finished on the podium and not won. So much for Tally Antonelli.
I was so nervous watching the end of that race. I was calculating how far ahead Kimi Antonelli had to be of Lando Norris in order to make sure the DRS wasn't enough to overtake him. All for that, for Mercedes to be like, you know what, let's get a bit of 2021 revenge. Kimi, pull over. Pull over, mate. Let him through. I get it. He had a mistake. I don't fucking believe you. Release the files, mate. He had the pace. He had no mistakes. And then all of a sudden, push comes to shove, and he runs wide. He overcorrects. We could have had a situation where Norris finishes third and still loses the championship. We could have had a situation where Max, all he needs to do is hope Piastri is good enough to be in second. And see if Piastri's told to let Norris through into second and see how he reacts with that. We don't get that anymore. It's so frustrating. And I'm very curious to see how McLaren handle this. Say Max Verstappen's winning, he's in first. And Oscar Piastri's in second. And he has no hopes of catching Lando in points and has no hopes of catching Verstappen for first. And Lando Norris is fourth. Do McLaren say, Oscar, pull over. Oscar, hold back. Let third place go ahead of you and let Lando Norris go ahead of you. How do McLaren handle this situation? And how does Oscar Piastri handle that situation? I think he's checked out of McLaren. I completely think he's fed up with that team. I think he sees how next season goes, and I think 2027 becomes a massive season for Formula One. It'll be a lot of good drivers seeing who's good and deciding what they want to do with their careers. That includes Charles Leclerc, that includes Max Verstappen, and I think that includes Oscar Piastri. Because he knows in this team, they love Norris and they're too indecisive to make the decisions that they need to do. And he's too good a driver to be in that situation.
I said it in our previous video. If Max does this, this will be the greatest ever comeback in sport history. Not just F1, in any history. The guy was 104 points behind in August and now down to 12.
Max Verstappen was out-qualified by a teammate for the first time since Baku last season in the sprint race in Qatar. He had no pace on Friday, and on Saturday, it wasn't much better. When he got to quali, he improved. And then on Sunday, he beats the McLarens to the win. Qatar was meant to be the McLaren track. And once again, Max Verstappen and Red Bull have outperformed McLaren as a team like they tend to do because McLaren are not a team that deserves to win this championship. I cannot believe I'm sat here saying this going into Abu Dhabi, but the fact of the matter is, if Max Verstappen and Red Bull get the exact same result as they had in Qatar, we'll be sat here speaking about Max Verstappen as a 5-time world champion. That is insane. And the only reason we are at this point is because of McLaren. Because just like Norris, the team follows suit. They are bottlers. 104 points down. It's 12. We shouldn't feel like he should be able to do it. But he fucking can.
If you haven't watched Luther's video on how Raikkonen did it back in 2007, go watch that now. Because Raikkonen in the final race of the season was 7 points behind Hamilton, needing to win. And in today's points format, that's 12. Verstappen is 12 points behind. So in Abu Dhabi, Max, before you race, I advise that you go watch Kimi's race on how to claw back 12 points, in his time 7 points, and win the championship. He finished 55 seconds ahead of the McLaren that day. And he lapped Hamilton, the championship leader.
It was an absolute shit show for McLaren, and it all goes down to one thing. them wanting to make sure everything is fair for both drivers. The only reason the two McLaren drivers didn't pit under the safety cars because they knew whoever was second, Lando Norris who was second, would be affected. The same way every other driver that was behind their teammate was affected. George Russell missed and lost so many positions in the pits because Kimi Antonelli was ahead of him. Hamilton was held up behind Charles Leclerc in the double stack, and they didn't want Lando Norris to lose out. So in turn, they lost Oscar Piastri a potential race win. And that's why Oscar Piastri, after the race, was so angry. He was faster than Max, that's the truth. He lost 26 seconds, in fact, to Max because of not pitting under the safety car and finished 12 seconds behind him. It tells you how much he had to claw back. So if I'm him, I'm fuming because now he's so far behind Norris and Verstappen with one race to go. He's out of the title battle, and it's because of McLaren's incompetence, because of them not wanting to suck it up and stop having to be fair all the time.
There is one thing that I want to know, and I want to hear it from Luther and you Ferrari fans when this goes out. That's another podium for Sainz, P3, and he even called it with Lando Norris, saying that Lando Norris won't be able to overtake us because we're matching his pace, except for that Antonelli slip. But Sainz another podium for Williams. The future at Williams is so fucking bright. And it just makes me question when I was watching this. I understand the Hamilton appeal, the aura, the 7-time world champion, what this would do for Ferrari bringing him. But have they made that mistake? And I want you Hamilton fans to think of this objectively. Have they made a mistake swapping Sainz for Hamilton? Also, guys, I do factor in that Ferrari have been dreadful this year. And that goes without saying. The Qatar Grand Prix was the epitome of that. But I want to ask that question to you, Luther.
Carlos Sainz became the first Williams driver to have multiple podiums in a season in over a decade. Ferrari made the wrong decision to get rid of Carlos Sainz for Lewis Hamilton. So yes, that's the answer. It was obvious when we made the decision because of Hamilton's struggles, and it was obvious this season. Carlos Sainz in a Williams has 2 podiums. Lewis Hamilton has 0. We use this excuse of him getting used to Ferrari, but we're seeing multiple drivers who moved teams now adjusted performing. So that excuse doesn't run anymore. Ferrari are terrible. Lewis Hamilton is also the only driver on the grid to not make it out of SQ1 or Q1 in the last 2 Grand Prix weekends. That's how bad Lewis Hamilton's performances have been. And you can talk about how bad the car is, but Charles Leclerc is managing to drag that thing into Q3 all season. All you guys were commenting before the season, telling me I was wrong about Charles Leclerc leaving him in the dust. You guys all told me that. Before, it was Mercedes' fault. He comes to Ferrari, it's Ferrari's fault. At some point, we have to acknowledge that age is a factor, and he is just declining. And Ferrari, stupidly, were in such a good place where we were so settled, man. We came closest to a championship than we've had since 2012. That was the closest we've been in a championship since 2012. And we decided to change everything. Change the car, change the driver lineup. And he is so mentally checked out, saying, I'm not looking forward to 2026, constantly complaining, constantly sad. This is not the mentality we need. If we had Carlos Sainz right now, we'd be second in the championship. I don't care how bad that car is. He would have better performances. He would have multiple podiums with that car, where Lewis Hamilton wasn't able to. Who's on the podium in Silverstone, Lewis Hamilton or Carlos Sainz this season? It wouldn't have been Hülkenberg. It would have been Carlos Sainz, because he wouldn't have been outpaced by Hülkenberg. He wouldn't have. It's the facts. And it's a shame. I'm done. Bye.